It became clear to me that I need to make something. I'm always asking what could I do? What kind of impact could I make, either as a farmer, as a filmmaker? And to me, it's really clear that I could make a bigger impact making a film about this.
That's Jordan Berger, filmmaker and hemp farmer from Tennessee. This is the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Herlock, and today I'm going to talk to Jordan Berger about the film he's making about industrial hemp. We're also going to hear about his work on the farm there in Tennessee and how that work inspired him to want to make this film in the first place. So I think you're really going to enjoy this, and is this the hemp film we've been waiting for? I think it is. All right, so we're going to take a quick sponsor break, and then we'll come back with a few nuggets of hemp news, and then we'll get into my conversation with Jordan Berger. This episode is brought to you in part by IND Hemp in Fort Benton, Montana, where their mission is to provide innovative agricultural products and services to connect American farmers with the pioneers and businesses that see hemp as a way to bring real and lasting change to our communities and planet. IND Hemp. This episode is brought to you in part by Ihemp Michigan. Join us at the 2022 Midwest Ihemp Expo as we talk about the power of hemp. On May 20th and 21st, Ihemp Michigan is host to the Midwest's largest cannabis trade show. With over 30 breakout education sessions, both business-to-business and consumer-focused education, the show will be packed with opportunities to network and learn. Visit ihempmichigan.com to learn more. Okay, welcome back. Just a few nuggets of hemp news this week. This first story I read on coloradopolitics.com. The story says that a Republican senator has pulled his name from bipartisan legislation seeking to regulate hemp, alleging the bill's Democratic co-sponsors allowed the legislation to be hijacked by the marijuana industry. As introduced, Senate Bill 205 would have established new definitions for adult-use cannabis products, artificially derived cannabinoid, intoxicating cannabinoid, and THC. The measure would task the Marijuana Enforcement Division of the Department of Revenue to come up with rules that set limits for the amounts of THC and intoxicating cannabinoids in adult-use cannabis products, as well as establish procedures for designating and transferring an adult-use cannabis product as a retail marijuana product. But critics claimed it was a giveaway to the marijuana industry, which would have had total control over the production of intoxicating hemp products, particularly those containing Delta-8 THC. The story goes on to say that Senate President Steve Fernberg, a Democrat from Boulder, co-sponsored Senate Bill 205, and he noted during a committee hearing Monday that the conversation on Delta-8 THC products has been going on for a couple of years. He thought the parties had come up with a compromise solution. But the pushback from the hemp industry indicated otherwise, so he threw out the original bill and replaced it with language allowing the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment to regulate the products, and a task force will be formed to look at future rules. The makeup of that committee is what set off Senator Don Coram, a Montrose Republican, this past Thursday during second reading debate on the bill. He offered an amendment to shake up the representation, seeking to put more people affiliated with the hemp industry on the task force. When the constitutional amendment legalizing recreational marijuana and hemp was passed, Coram and a colleague ran a bill to put hemp under the Department of Agriculture. We were adamant that there would be separation between hemp and marijuana, he said, noting the separation had been maintained from 2013 until now. So this is a really interesting story that we're going to keep an eye on. All right, moving on. All right, this next story is on Lexology.com, and it's coming to us from Argentina. The story says that Argentine Congress passes bill that regulates the industry of medicinal cannabis and industrial hemp. On Thursday, May 5th, 2022, the Argentine Congress passed the law regulating the industry of medicinal cannabis and industrial hemp. The Argentine president must promulgate it and still may fully or partially veto it. The scope of the law is the regulation of the chain of production, domestic commerce, and/or exportation of cannabis, its seeds, and its derivatives with medicinal, scientific, and industrial purposes. All right, Argentina getting in on the hemp story. Good job. All right, and finally, here's a story on CNN.com. It says that Thailand is about to give away 1 million free cannabis plants to households. The story says that the Thai government will distribute 1 million free cannabis plants to households across the nation in June to mark a new rule allowing people to grow cannabis at home, its health minister has said. Thailand's health minister announced the move in a Facebook post on May 8th in which he expressed his intention for cannabis plants to be grown like household crops. The new rule, which comes into force on June 9, will allow people to grow cannabis plants at home after notifying their local government, but the plants will have to be of medicinal grade or used exclusively for medicinal purposes. Additionally, the cannabis cannot be used for commercial purposes without further licenses. All right, Thailand, who knew? All right, I'll have links to these stories and a whole lot more on the show page for this episode at lancasterfarming.com. And while you're there at lancasterfarming.com, you should click on our newsletter page and sign up for our hemp podcast newsletter. I am in the process of reworking it. It's going to be new and improved starting this week, so be sure to sign up for our hemp newsletter. Okay? And if you have a nugget of hemp news or some kind of news tip, send it to me. You can always get in touch with me at podcast@lancasterfarming.com. Speaking of getting in touch with me, I received an email from a listener just today, a listener in Iowa by the name of Lynn. She says that she's an active listener to the podcast and the only student at Iowa State University working with hemp. But she had to email us because there was a couple of things in last week's show that need to be corrected. She says that the X Prize that was used as an example from the interview with Bruce Dietzen was awarded to Dr. Robert Brown, a professor of hers at Iowa State University, not the University of Iowa. So that's the first thing. We stand corrected. It's Iowa State University. And then she says that we also know more here in Iowa than just corn, 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 even though Dr. Brown is using corn stover for the biochar research. All right, I know the folks there at Iowa State know all kinds of stuff. So, Lynn, thank you for correcting us. I appreciate it, and thank you for listening to our show. All right, so before we get into our interview today, I just want to set things up a little bit, so bear with me. So, if you're like me, maybe you found yourself scrolling around on Netflix, trying to find something decent to watch, and you think, oh, maybe there's a cool documentary about industrial hemp. And so you search hemp, and all you get is, like a bunch of shows about marijuana, cooking with pot, or cliche hippie 420 stuff. But there's nothing really out there that shows the true potential of this crop. And I'm not casting any judgment here on marijuana, but I would venture to guess that a lot of people out there are just turned off by the pot stuff, and so they miss out on the real story of hemp. They don't care about marijuana, but I bet they care about the environment. I bet they care about healthcare, climate change, nutrition, sustainable agriculture, green building, carbon sequestration. But they don't make that connection to hemp because they're turned off by the marijuana stigma. My guest today is hoping to change all that with a documentary film series that he's calling One Plant. Jordan Berger, filmmaker and Tennessee hemp farmer. Welcome to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. How are you doing?
Doing good. Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm excited that you're here. I'm excited about the project that you're embarking on, and I wonder if you can just sort of tell us what that is.
Yeah, I'm a filmmaker and been making my own films since really since high school, but went to college and kind of was a theater/video person, and right after college, immediately started a video production company. And I've known that I wanted to make something surrounding hemp and cannabis for a long time. I just didn't really know what it was going to be. It always felt kind of too big to tackle, or the timing wasn't right. But yeah, I think in 2019, I also became a hemp farmer in Tennessee, and kind of my love for the plant and what all it could do was sort of reignited. And I learned a lot more, just by growing the plant, talking to farmers. And it became clear to me that, all right, I need to make something. I'm always asking, what could I do? What kind of impact could I make, either as a farmer, as a filmmaker? And to me, it's really clear that I could make a bigger impact making a film about this that the masses could digest and understand and get excited about. You know, it's just surprising to me that we're in 2022 and there's not anything out there like this. Like, most of the cannabis documentaries are all kind of caught up in pot culture, or only scratching the surface, and there's so much more to tell. And I think that's, it finally came to me that this needed to be a series. It's more than just one film. It certainly could be one film, but I think it would be a lot of content kind of packed in the 1 hour or the 1.5 hour. And I think to really explore these things like they need to be, a series is kind of what I decided on. So yeah, all that to say, the project is called One Plant. It's a 7-part film series, documentary series. I'm trying to incorporate some narrative elements in it as well, some reenactments, but just other kind of, based on the anecdotes I get from my interviews and things like that, I'm going to build some scenes around them, because I am a narrative filmmaker. That's kind of where I started. I love documentaries, but I'm always trying to, make it a little bit more than just a traditional documentary. That's kind of my goal. But yeah, man, I've actually started shooting it in 2019, right when I became a farmer. Didn't know, what it was going to be. I just started interviewing the people around me, and got some really good stuff. And then COVID happened, got busy with other things. It kind of, the project kind of lost some momentum. But I'd say last year, towards the end of last year, it really picked up steam again. I was able to finally create a teaser and kind of a more fleshed out creative deck of what the project looked like. And I started sending it to people, and getting really great feedback. So it kind of got me really excited and kind of back on track. Okay, this thing can be made. It is possible. So yeah, I think that's my focus, first in this year, is to make a pilot episode 1, which episode 1 is called The Plant. It kind of touches on all of the episodes following, like everything that we're going to explore in the series. But yeah, my plan is to get that made with the funding that I'm raising right now, and I'm hoping to do a second round of fundraising to get the remaining 6 episodes made. Okay. At a high level, I think I'm gonna make this thing regardless. And I have a production company and I'm a filmmaker. I have gear and people that will help me out, but I think to really make this at the level that I know it can be and that it should be, it costs some money. So, that's what I'm trying to raise some money for. And, the goal is to get it on Netflix or any sort of big streaming platform. Because yeah, I really think this is something that everybody should see and everybody could get excited about. So
yeah, you're right. There's a need out there for, this kind of documentary film. Like you said, the stuff that's out there is all very like 420, smoking pot, whatever. But, like we talked about this kind of stuff before the interview, just that there's so much more to this plant than the THC and the cannabinoids. It's like it's a workhorse and it could revolutionize the way we exist on the planet. And somebody needs to tell that story. So,
right. No, absolutely. You. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, you're totally right, man. I mean, it seems like, while these cannabis documentaries, some of them are great, some of them touch on some good things. It's, like I said, only scratching the surface. And it seems like it's kind of getting in the way of, all the other potential of this plant, like we're saying. I mean, I think, 75-80% of my film series is going to be on the industrial side. Looking at hemp concrete building materials, hemp plastics, just simply the climate benefits of growing this plant and what it can do for our farmland that's been just destroyed in this country. So yeah, the story is really a lot bigger than just the medical marijuana side, which is important, and there will be an episode for that.
So let's talk about how you decided to become a hemp farmer in 2019. Let's go there.
Yeah. So funny enough, my accountant for my video production company, he had been my accountant for a couple of years, and he just randomly said, "Well, I'm entering the wild west of or what did he say? The wild world of industrial hemp." And he kind of just told me that out of the blue one day, and it just immediately my ears perked up, and I was like, "What? You can grow hemp in Tennessee? I wasn't even aware." This is before, I think this was in 2018 when I talked to him. So
Okay, so the Farm Bill hadn't been signed into law yet, but there were still research permits available. Yeah.
right, hadn't been signed into law yet, but apparently in Tennessee and a few other pilot states, you could grow since 2014, which I didn't realize that. So yeah, I've always enjoyed growing things. Yeah, I love gardening. I love growing things in general. And
I mean, did you grow up farming? Did you grow up on a farm or a rural area, or what was
not
your like?
really.
No.
No, I mean, I had access to a farm, but it was a horse farm. What wasn't much, gardening or farming going on there.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't really know where it came from. I think I sort of just have I don't know, a knack for just growing things. It kind of came pretty natural to me. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I really enjoy it. It's sort of therapy for me. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, when I heard that you were able to grow hemp in Tennessee, yeah, like I said, my ears perked up, and I looked into what it took to get licensed, and it wasn't very hard. $250, and tell them where you're going to grow it, and there you go. So that was like, wow, this is awesome. Like, why aren't more people growing this? Like,
And then so how like was it? Did you grow a couple of acres, or tell me about the farm?
yeah. So at the time, I was actually looking for a new home. I had been renting up to that point, and I was ready to kind of purchase my first home. And when growing hemp became a possibility, that kind of was the driving force. Okay, I need a little bit of land at least. I want to grow hemp on this. Um, so yeah, I found a 5-acre tract of land about 30 minutes east of Chattanooga in Appleton. Really beautiful area. It's like up on a hillside, and I remember seeing the pictures and just imagining all the hemp that could be grown there. I was like, wow, this is so much sun. This is a perfect place. Got up there and yeah, started going to work, and yeah, quickly realized that anything more than like an acre was going to be too much for me to handle. I mean, it was me and my dad and uncle and cousin. So us four kind of went at it. And yeah, I think from the beginning, we knew we wanted to grow organically. We knew I had started learning a lot about Elaine Ingham and soil food web and just living soil. So that kind of became an obsession actually for a little bit, just like how good can we get our soil? And this is going to be all organic, handcrafted. I was trying to immediately think of a way to stand out against the other people around me that were growing, which was like, tons and 20,000 plants or whatever more, big grows. So yeah, quickly just went right to it. I moved in March and immediately started working on the growing area, and was planted by June. And yeah, I've now gone through 3 complete growing seasons, and still learning every year. Still
Yeah.
feel like my soil is getting better and better, and having to do less things to it, which is nice.
Yeah. So what you said you're growing about an acre?
Yeah, well, now it's even smaller. Probably about half an acre is my
Okay.
main garden area. It still fits, you could fit 250 plants in there pretty
Okay.
easily.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I try to keep it small. I want to be able to care for each plant individually, and don't use any heavy machinery or anything like that. It's all by hand. We don't till. I have a broad fork, which no one in the South really knows what that is, but I had to order mine from where was it? I think Wisconsin, I believe.
Okay.
Oh, it's a great tool though. I love it. It's
So
just
it's what, like a two-handled tool that's got like a
Yeah,
fork, sort of a wide fork at the bottom, and you use your
it's
foot
got
and your
five.
arms.
Yeah, it's got five like 1 foot long forks
Tines.
at the bottom, tines. Yeah, and you yeah, just work it down into the soil with your body weight, and you're kind of just popping the soil up. You're not like turning it over.
Just loosen it
Uh,
up a bit.
yeah, or there's no, there's no compression that
Right.
happens like from a tiller. So it actually goes quite deeper than a tiller, and you're doing like you're not really damaging the soil at all.
Yeah.
It's just kind of giving it some oxygen. So the idea is to do that for a couple of years, and then eventually you won't even
Won't have
need
to.
to do that. So anyway,
And then
it's been
so
fun.
talk about like your row spacing and other aspects of the actual you know plot.
Oh, the row spacing.
Yeah.
Sure. So yeah, first year we did drip tape and plastic mulch, which I immediately didn't like the look of that. It was just like what everybody else was doing. So I did that. And second year went away from that. Um, but let's see, I fit about 12 plants per row. I mean, I think they're like on 5.5 foot centers. I mean, I give them a pretty big space.
Sure.
The plants, as you know, grow very fast and very large if you give them the space. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's looks like literally a bunch of Christmas trees out there, in September, and my whole neighborhood smells, and it's great.
Yeah. How do your neighbors feel about that?
Well, I have a pastor that lives right next to me, and his children, and they seem to be okay with it. When we
Yeah.
moved in, I went over and told them, "Hey, we're going to be growing hemp. It's going to smell a little bit, but it's completely legal. It's feel free to come over whenever."
Right.
And yeah, they've been cool about it, but
Nice.
I just think it's kind of funny.
Where did you source your genetics?
So I sourced my genetics from Oregon, which that's one thing that, you know, is a little unfortunate. And I think, well, at least in 2019, there really wasn't many options
Sure.
for genetics. I wanted to get, I grow for CBD. I wanted to get something high in CBD, and there just wasn't many genetics out of the South. Um, so I got a strain called Midwest out of Oregon. It's a great plant. It's an indica dominant plant, but it's used to a totally different climate than Tennessee. So there's some issues I got to deal with. It's a lot more humid in Tennessee. It gets a lot hotter in Tennessee. So airflow is important. That's another reason I like to keep them really spaced apart.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, it's they've gotten better. I mean, they grow pretty well. I do wish that I could get a really nice high CBD strain out of the South that's like designed for high humidity.
Hmm.
And I think there probably is some options now. This year, honestly, I'm not going to be growing as much simply because of this project.
Mm-hmm.
I'll still grow probably 20 plants or so just because I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got plenty of biomass and flower from last year actually
Yeah.
still. So
So how are you marketing that? Are you processing there on the farm? Are you sort of making a branded product?
yeah, I have a brand called Head River Farms. That was kind of the brand that we started right away. Yeah, I knew that if we were going to try to make any money in this, it's probably best to just be vertical. And so yeah, decided to start a brand. And yeah, I've been doing pretty good with it. I mean, we sell online. We make tinctures. Sorry, stepping back a little bit. We partner with a lab in Chattanooga. Little Tree Labs is the name of them. So we take all of our flower and biomass to them. They process a full spectrum extract, which through ethanol. And yeah, it's makes a really great product. I'm really pleased with just the terpenes and everything that make it through into the extraction. A lot of people will use CO2 or other extraction methods just to get isolate, which you know it's just not as effective, it
That's
seems.
full
Full
spectrum.
spectrum
Yeah.
is the way to go for sure. So yeah, we make tinctures, rubs. I have a greenhouse, so the very best flour I'll sell as flour.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just kind of a side thing. Like my main job is video production.
Sure.
But yeah, it's a lot of work, but
Yeah.
it's fun.
So a lot of farmers I talk to sort of get not overwhelmed, but they love to hear, the anecdotes from their customers about how the product has sort of helped them. Do you have any of those sorts of stories?
Yeah, I love that as well. Yeah, man. I mean, it's funny because I'll pretty regularly get orders at like 3 or 4 in the clock in the morning, and I'm like, why is that? And it's because people are waking up. It really helps with sleep quite a bit, and that's like probably the main thing that I've heard, that this is finally I can sleep a full night, and pain. And I actually hear a lot of great feedback from our pet products. So I
Hmm.
have a pet oil, one for smaller breeds and one for larger breeds, and I've got a lot of great feedback from that, just how it's helped their dog sleep through the night, or with their joint pain, they're able to get around a little easier. But yeah, I mean that's what it's all about for sure. Hearing those testimonials is definitely the best part of it.
Yeah, good.
So
Getting back to your film work. Um,
yeah.
so you said you've got sort of some of the production underway now. You've interviewed a few people. What's the next step? I know you said you're trying to raise money to get it funded, but
Right.
like production wise, what do you hope to accomplish over the next few months?
Yeah, so I've been in talks with a couple of brands in the cannabis space. I don't know if I'm allowed to say them right now, so I won't. But they people that are interested in the project, and they're interested in throwing some money at it. I don't know how much yet. They have committed, but they haven't told me how much. So I'm kind of waiting on that.
Right.
I should be hearing literally this week, probably. But regardless of that, the plan is this summer to do 5 or 6 week road trip. Sounds like kind of similar to what you've been doing with your podcast. Um, and yeah, the first trip is going to be all in the US, up into Canada as well. But I've been lining up folks that, are kind of main players in each of my episode
Mm-hmm.
topics. So yeah, that's the plan, is a 5 to 6 week trip, starting late June, early July. So really coming up pretty soon here.
Yeah.
I want to be able to capture, hemp growing all across the country, harvesting. But yeah, it's just it also kind of worked out with me. Like, this is the time I've been planning on this all year, to blocking off, all of July and August pretty much
Mm-hmm.
to do this. So yeah, that's the goal. It might not end up being one just perfect trip all at once, but that's kind of what I have in my mind. I recently got a Sprinter van last year, a used one that I've been using for production stuff, and I'm building that out, planning on sleeping in that, me and one other guy that's going to be going with me. So yeah, the plan is simply to get all of the interviews for episode 1, all of the
Okay.
main A-roll, and then I'll probably go back and supplement some production trips to do some of these reenactments, or some of these other things that kind of spice it up a bit.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. So our audience, the listeners out there, should maybe know that you might be contacting them to,
Yeah, absolutely.
like, so you're looking for subjects, right, to be part of this, to sort of tell the greater hemp story. So heads up, people. Jordan's
Yep.
going to be knocking on your door, but you're also actively looking for investment in this.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have a full creative deck that kind of breaks down each episode, and sort of the style and tone of the project, and the kind of rough budget parameters at this point. Like I said, it's 7 1-hour episodes, so it's quite a bit of content. I feel like it's still on the cheap end, just because I'm in video production. I know how much things cost,
Sure.
but it still is a lot of money when you just see it on the page there. So
Right.
yes, I am looking for sponsors, and yeah, I think this is something that will help elevate just hemp in general, the industry in general. So I think it's a good thing for really anybody in the space.
Yeah, like you said in the beginning, like, it doesn't exist. The thing that you're making, like, it needs to exist. Like, that story needs to be told, but it's not out
Which
there
is
anywhere.
crazy to me. it's just crazy to me that it doesn't exist. I mean,
Yeah.
we're in 2022. I can't believe it. And I'm like, if something doesn't get started this year, then someone else is going to make it. Like,
Mhm.
that's really how I feel. Because yeah, it's just crazy. This story hasn't been told. I mean, like I was telling you before, I listened to your interview with Joe Hickey, and he was talking about making some good progress in 1994, nearly 30 years ago. And
Right.
it's like, here we are. I mean, we've made a little bit, but
We could
it's
be so
not
much
much of a
further
change.
along.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, something needs to get out there that sways the public's opinion about this plant, that helps them understand that no, this plant can help us on so many levels at a time when we really need it the most. So
Amen to
yeah.
that. Do you feel like this is your calling in a way?
Um, I guess I do in some way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I have a knack for telling story, I think, and I think that's my calling. And I think marrying that with hemp, yeah, I mean, and the story, it certainly feels like a pretty big thing. And yeah, I haven't thought of it that way, but yeah, I guess it is my calling.
All right. Well, so you shared the deck and the teaser with me. Am I able to share that with our audience?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Yep.
so we will put a link to that on the show page for this episode at lancasterfarming.com, and people
Cool.
can go check it out. And
Yeah.
yeah, well, Jordan, it's great to talk to you. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. So thank you for your time today, and I'm
Yeah.
sure we'll have many future conversations.
Thank you, Eric. Really appreciate it, man.
All right, how about that? Finally, a documentary about industrial hemp. So if you want to get in touch with Jordan, you can reach out to him through his website at sunflower.film, or you know how to get in touch with me, and I can relay any messages. But I encourage you to reach out to him, either with content ideas, story ideas, or offerings of financial support, because it really sounds like he could use some of that. So I think together, as a community, we can help support this. So I'm excited to share his story here. All right, so that does it for me today. My name is Eric Herlock. I am the digital editor at Lancaster Farming newspaper. Say it with me, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. But don't take my word for it. Check us out online at lancasterfarming.com. Get yourself a subscription to our print edition, and you will have a nice big fat newspaper every week full of all kinds of agricultural news and products and all sorts of things. So yeah, Lancaster Farming newspaper. What else? Oh, next week I'm going to be in Michigan for the Ihemp Michigan Midwest Hemp Expo. Looks like it's really going to be a great show, something for everybody there. The expo and educational components, and I'm really excited to be getting out there. So if you're there, please say hi to me. And I'll be covering the show on a couple of episodes in the future. So if you don't get a chance to be there, I will be providing you some information about it. So, all right, until next time, I will see you in the newspaper.
Industrial hemp.
This episode of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2022 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show was written and recorded, edited, and produced by Eric Herlock. Any music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tin Bird Shadow.